Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we got a little slate here on Tuesday that we're looking at with some fun matchups, I will say, in this one on Tuesday night. But we're getting ahead of all this stuff nice and early with these early lines on Monday night here as we round out the NBA evening. Do want to make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. We also have a player props video that we have up each and every weekday with you guys along with these best bets. Also want you to head over to thelines.com. It is March Madness and almost in full swing, and the NBA is still rocking strong. So plenty of stuff up on the site, including that prop finder tool to make sure you're getting all the juice back that you can on these bets you're making in the NBA this season. Hey, let's go ahead and kick it off with what I think is going to be a fun game, but I do think we have a really good angle on this Nuggets and Timberwolves game.
Yeah, I mean, if you can bet it early and get the Nuggets at -4 or better, you're definitely in luck because it looks like Naz Reid's not going to be good to go here on the back-to-back, and we don't know about Rudy Gobert for the Wolves. And either way, I mean, they're at a significant disadvantage here, playing in Utah, then flying home to face a Nuggets team that's coming off a loss to Dallas. And I mean, the Nuggets are 70% off a loss in terms of winning the next game. So I'm actually going to avoid the spread, assuming that it's going to actually climb a little bit maybe, and just parlay Nuggets with the Rockets money line, which Josh will delve into a little bit more. They are at Washington. That spread has already climbed a couple points, but still getting you slightly plus money as of this recording to parlay those two. Don't think there's anything to worry about with the Rockets. I mean, Washington is resting people as if they have the the ability to take people out of their lineup and still be competitive. We know that's not the case, but I mean, maybe Rudy comes back after missing these last two games. If he does not, we know that the Wolves defense is going to be a little bit worse. So, I mean, we know that when they played Boston and LA, they had a 120 plus defensive rating. Definitely not what we've been accustomed to with the number one defense there. Also know that Ant, despite, uncorking an unbelievable dunk here in Utah, has struggled on back-to-backs really throughout his career. He has a 103 offensive rating, 102 this year, shooting 31% from deep. His last two back-to-backs, he's 1 for 10 from deep, shooting 30% from the floor. And that was a blowout loss in Cleveland, and then the close win over Portland, where famously he forgot what time the game was, so he had to come off the bench. And Cat had to kind of carry the load there. I mean, Rudy and Cat were both great in that game, but the last five now without Cat, this is not including the Utah game where Minnesota's defense has not been fantastic. I mean, they're allowing the seventh most paint points and third highest free throw rate. I mean, and I don't even know what to say about the Nuggets. Like, stats don't matter. Like, is this an important game? Yes, then the Nuggets are going to win it. Like, there are three left against the Wolves. They're all backloaded where these teams are playing head to head, and you think Denver's not going to, for multiple reasons, put their foot on these dudes' necks. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You haven't been watching Jokic and these boys are not playing here after the All-Star break. Number 2 net rating, 9-2 straight up, and winning on the road. Aside from that Dallas game where Luka just had the one-upsmanship here, but yeah, even if Rudy plays, Josh's favorite memory is when Rudy was talking about how he had him, and he's like, "Brother, I already have 47 or whatever it was," and Joker just still roasts him. So. I'm gonna ride with the Joker on this one.
It's the best Joker story, and it had to supersede the getting drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. That was the first original really great Joker story. Second one is when he had 47. Rudy was like defending him and was like, "Don't switch," and Jokic gets the ball and just turns him over his shoulders like, "Brother, I have 47." Like, just what are you talking about? And that's where we're at again. I mean, trying to predict when Joker's going to try in the regular season, it's a bit of a science. I think one of the variables is how good is the other center, and does he feel like putting him in his place? And I mean, Rudy's just got a face, man. He's just got that thing about him. He makes himself pretty unlikable amongst players. I think there's going to be plenty of reason for him to play in this game. Ant actually hurt himself on that ridiculous dunk. If you don't know what we're talking about, just Google Ant Edwards. There's nothing else is going to come up right now other than him just putting John Collins into a grave early. So yeah, let's talk about the Rockets though. It is at 7.5 at this point, and like, I don't know, man. Great, whatever. I mean, Kuzma's probably not going to play at this point. So now we're talking about no one right? Avdia's out already. Tyus Jones is out. Kyle Kuzma, currently questionable, looks more likely that he's out. Koulibaly is out. Landry Shamet is out. And Marvin Bagley, both those dudes have been out. I mean, the fact that I even have to mention that Landry Shamet won't be available means there's not going to be very many NBA level players playing for Washington in this game. In their last 5, they've got the worst net rating. They're playing at the second fastest pace. And in fact, the only thing, I'll just start with why this would be a game that Washington could cover if it had the players in that have even been playing over the last 5 to 10 games. Because I can't even do anything with these numbers, but their team is decent at, and has been all season, at limiting the three-pointer, in part because opposing teams don't need to take threes if they don't want to. They can just waltz to the lane if they prefer, or just get all their points out in transition. And the Rockets, without Alpi Şengün now over their last 4 games, and really he left that Portland Trailblazers game 5 games ago a little bit early. He still got 30 minutes in that game and then had to leave in the 4th. So he was playing in that one, but they actually came back after he left in that Portland game when they were about tied and actually down in the 4th, and then ended up winning by about 16 or 17 points in that game. Not saying they're better with Alperen Şengün, but they've been better without him. They played poo-poo competition, maybe not as poo-poo as this Washington team, though, right? Like, they played Portland, the Spurs, whatever you want to do with the Kings. They played them, however good you think they are. They played the Wiz as well, and Cleveland, who is a bit of a train wreck despite a good game here against Indiana, because Cavs going Cavs when you at least expect it. They won. But in the last 5, when they're 5-0, the 8th best O rating and the 2nd best D rating, playing at that 5th fastest pace now that they have the dude who slowed them down more than anybody off the floor. And not only is it about him being off the floor, it's about who's now on the floor more. Amin Thompson's in that starting lineup. And I mean, as I've told you since all season, since I saw him play for 10 minutes in Summer League, this dude's going to be good. And he's played in sort of that Aaron Holiday role at times when he plays the second unit now, where he is the point guard. And we've seen him have some incredible passing games, but also just playing in that dunker spot, similar to his brother Osser. So there's a lot of offensive rebounding happening for them. They have, and the thing about Houston, so to the final point here, like why Washington would be able to win this game, or at least hang closer than 7.5 points, is their ability to limit threes. But like I said, teams aren't shooting threes against them. The Rockets have relied on them. They've become somewhat of a 3-point shooting team between Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet, especially shooting the bulk of the threes that they're making now, and hitting a bunch of them. Right, they're both shooting above 40% from 3 in their last 5, and that's been a lot of where they got their point. They're been getting their points from, but also in transition. And Washington's allowing the 3rd most transition points the most transition points, scoring the 3rd, but Houston limits transition points. They get back on D, they're 4th best in limiting that, while we're talking about Washington just hemorrhaging those things. So like going to the basket, if you want some Jalen Green props in here, like he was way underpriced at 21.5 last game. I don't think we're going to get that anymore. We're going to probably see this thing, I would guess 25.5 if the books are trying to be sharp. If the books are being a little bit soft, then 24.5 is still a good prop for me to take for Jalen Green, not even just because of the 8 to 9 threes that he's averaging in attempts and 3 makes, but also the fact that he's going to the rim more than anyone, especially without Alperen Şengün out. I talked about that when I took him last time they played the Wizards, and actually should have climbed the ladder to get to 30 with him. So do what you will with the Jalen Green stuff. I don't think being prepared for him more so this game is going to do anything for Washington, who has even fewer options of limiting guys at the rim on defense. So
yeah, I think if you're late to this in terms of the spread, Jalen Green and Amin Thompson are the guys you got to target here. Yeah, Amin with the peripheral stats probably more so than the points, but he should also be able to score here, because a guy without a jump shot, when you're facing a team that just literally has a red carpet to the rim, like that's fantastic. Yeah, he should score as well. And those guys, yeah, are going to be gunning here. Let's go to San Antonio, Battle of Texas here. I'll take under 233, 232.5 now. People are starting to hit this under because the Spurs have been an under trendy team for sure. I mean, they're 18-6 to the under since the end of January. Dallas is 10-4 to the under when they're favored since the start of February. And their last 4 overall, they've only been playing at a 96 pace. You know, we see the Dallas of yesteryear, if you will, where they just played incredibly slow, and where they ran every possession methodically through Luka. And the fact that Luka is supposed to play through this hamstring injury, you never know. I mean, when you face the worst team in your division, maybe he doesn't play. But if he does play, I actually like the under more, just because I think the pace will be slower, and he will have his fingerprints on this and just be grinding out possessions. I mean, these teams did meet right before the All-Star break and played at a 102 pace and still only got to 209 with the Mavs scoring, winning pretty handily in Dallas. Nobody could score other than Wemby, and that's what you look at with the Spurs. It's just like Wemby is a one man defense. He is fantastic in his own right. Going to force everything, out. He's like a reverse engineered defense. The way he's forcing all of his defenders flying out on the 3 point line, and San Antonio's been the number one 3 point defense in their last 10 because of that. And then he's just there at the back line. But then offensively, like, it's clunky. It doesn't make sense. He still doesn't really know what he's doing. I do trust him to score a little bit, but like, I don't trust anybody else on the Spurs to. And I mean, their last 6 at home, they do have a 113 offensive rating, but again, they're playing slow, 96 pace, so it's 4-2 to the under. And that's pretty much the take here. I mean, it's just like, as long as this game is played below 100 pace and Devin Vassell doesn't go off, because that's that's the thing that can kind of burn you, is like, oh, the Spurs found an offense because Vassell is cooking. But I think Dallas will be, they need wins so badly that I don't think that they're going to just suddenly get into this random shootout with the Spurs. I think they will have their defensive haunches up and play well enough to keep that Spurs offense down.
It makes sense. Yeah. Sneaky slow sometimes with Dallas, like you were saying, and the Spurs with Wemby are going to trend to do that as well, with the ability to defend the rim. He had a couple of possessions the other day against Brooklyn where he blocked like 4 shots in a possession, 3 shots in a possession, just back to back, guys just throwing it into his arms. And I think that's a big part of it, although they are terrible at defending centers, and that's not where the bulk of the points are going to come. But I do think they are going to like give up a bit more to Daniel Gafford in order to make sure Luka doesn't necessarily get his. He's at 33.5 points. If the hamstring's for real, that feels like an under as well. But in looking at a lot of the point props in this game, I do lean under, which also kind of, obviously just adds up to this being a good game total under. But another bet here that is an over, a game that you would say, like, why would you take over pretty much on anything in this Hornets and Magic game? We have a total where, one team is at a 95.5 team total prop, and that's the Charlotte Hornets. And we're finally there. I've watched so many guys get mauled in the face. They're still not calling fouls. We're not giving away anything easy. I'd rather have it like this. Don't get me wrong. Guys, foul hunting is disgusting. But more importantly for this game, I do think Orlando's team total over 108.5 is a good bet here. You still get that minus 105. That might rise. I don't know if people are going to have the cojones to bet up even at a 203.5 total in this game with the Hornets and Magic, where we're in Orlando. And that's kind of what I focus on here, is like, this should be a blowout. It is a 13.5 point line. The Hornets have done their best at times, but this is not a good situation for them. In Orlando, we just saw them get beat at home, and that was a really low scoring game as well. But Orlando at home has scored over this point total in 9 of 10. Actually, that should be 8 of 10 because they scored 108, and I was originally going to take 107.5. So either way, still at an 80% clip at home in their last 10 in their building. While Charlotte's D has improved to 15th best in their last 10 games overall, they played the second easiest schedule in the league in that time. They've got a lot of easy teams to score against in that time frame here over the last 10. So I'm going to more rely on their one of their worst defensive ratings in the league is what they've held for most of the season, and that's probably going to be a lot better. They're in even in this time frame in the last 10 games where they've had a decent defensive rating, they have given up more points at home, or on the road rather, and played much faster on the road with a bunch more possessions, 97.5 pace compared to about a 94 pace that they've played at home in their own building. So the other thing for them is just, can you stop what Orlando does, which is get to the free throw line based on going into the paint? And I would venture to guess no, they cannot. Now, they've been a little bit better in their last 5 to 10 games, but once again, it's a sample size of really bad teams on the season. They are fourth in the amount of times that their opponents headed into the paint and taken a shot, and 24th in efficiency there, and defensive efficiency when they go to the rim. So like I said, for Orlando, number 1 on the season in terms of free throw attempt rate. It's what they've been all season. It's what they'll continue to be. So if you're not going to be able to stop them once they get in the paint with guys like Paolo and Franz, I don't have much use for you on defense either way. With a full squad, especially with this Orlando team as healthy as it is, getting ready for the stretch, I do expect them to score about 110 in this one.
Yeah, I mean, they came up a half point shy when we took them, or we wanted that game over on Friday, and I'm thinking like, oh man, the books are going to get us again. They're going to land on 108, but yeah, with the team total being this much lower, I think you are getting some value here. I mean, Charlotte is not a defensive stopper. Don't get it wrong. Like they just muck it up, and they played some gross games, a lot like Portland. where you're just like, you wouldn't be surprised to see a game that one team that likely Charlotte falls below 100, but yeah, their personnel is not such that Orlando's going to struggle. I was going to look at Franz Wagner props here because he does kind of spike against bad teams, even though he had a bad game in Charlotte when he was still slumping. But I think he started to break out of that slump, and I think he's probably a good bet for like 18 plus points here.
Yeah, I dig it. That would be where I would lean to. I mean, it's tough sometimes with Paolo and Franz to see which ones they do similar things. But I do like the look for Franz in a situation where, like you said, playing really good against poor teams. Maybe some assists in line for Paolo. But that is all the time we have for you in Best Bets. Continue to follow along and check out the other video we have up, Play a Props, each and every weekday. Until we see you next, happy betting.